So the reinforcements have arrived for the Springboks. They've named their squad to take on Ireland in a mouth-watering series this summer. And also today, we've got the news that Siya Kolisi is to continue as captain. So welcome back to the channel. It's great to have your company once again. I appreciate you clicking on the video. And if you haven't already, then like the video and make sure you're subscribed to this channel as well. And you can let me know in the comments about anything that you think that I touch upon. I'll get onto the squad in just a minute. That came out the other day, a day or so ago. But the big news today is that Siya Kolisi is going to be the captain for the Springboks. He is fit, he is firing, and he is going to continue in the role that he has had for a little while now. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. Double World Cup winning captain. There was a bit of discussion though, wasn't there? On the back of 2023, what do the Boks do in terms of the captaincy? Was it quite a natural point to move on to someone else, to take it away from Siya Kolisi? I think ultimately it probably came down to a few things, in particular that one I just mentioned of is he fit or not? Was he fit enough to be able to play? He is, and Erasmus has decided he's the best man for the job, and you can understand it, right? Because not only has he been there and done it and won things, he has the respect of that playing group. He is loved, understandably, by the supporters. A leader on the pitch and a leader off the pitch, and you probably look at things, and I'd imagine many of you will, if you're Bok fans, and say, if it's not broken, then why do we need to fix it? Let's stick with Kolisi. Could he even end up being a triple World Cup winning captain 4 years' time? I know we're not really thinking about that now, but it's a pretty tempting legacy for him, I'd imagine, down the line. But there would have been other candidates. I mean, Eben Etzebeth is an obvious one. We saw Peter Steph-Totoy captain the team against Wales at the weekend. Like all across that team, there is experience and there is quality. They would have had, I think, a lot of candidates, but Kolisi is the man that keeps it, and I think we can probably all understand why. Let's get onto the squad. You'll all be pretty up to date with it by now, but this is what Rassie Erasmus has gone for. I mean, it's just strong, isn't it? I don't think there's a nation in the world at the moment that comes close to the Boks in terms of the quality and the strength in depth. Like, that is the thing that always shines through with the Springboks, because they've got injuries, they're missing players. Damien Willemse, Kanan Moody, there are others. There are informed players in the URC that haven't been picked. Hanekom, there are others. But they still have such a strong squad. It was exactly what I was saying for any of you that watched the video pre or post the game against Wales at Twickenham at the weekend, where they were missing all these players, but it was still a really strong squad. And that is where this Springbok team is. And what it also tells us about them is they are going full guns blazing for this Ireland series. For obvious reasons, because we've all spoken about it, right? We've all spoken about the kind of rivalry that's been brewing here between these two teams. The fact that Ireland were many people's favourites for the World Cup. Many people thought they were the best team in the world, even earlier this year during the Six Nations. And the Springboks are going to want to play them twice on their own patch and I think give them a bit of a lesson. I think this squad is geared towards that. It is geared towards winning this two-match series. It's not about anything further down the line. And to be fair, the Springboks do often rotate. They often speak about building towards a World Cup. I would argue more than possibly any other international nation. It is such a focus. It is such a project of theirs. On this occasion, that's not what this is about. There is strength everywhere. The other thing I would say, because maybe the strength of the squad is quite an obvious point, I think it's a squad that has a really clear identity. In that you look at the props, for example, you've got two obvious loose heads, two obvious tight heads, and then you've got Thomas Totoy and Trevor Nyakane, who can both kind of play a bit of both there. In the back row, likewise, you've got your sixes, you've got your sevens, and then you've got guys like Kwagga Smith who can jump around, who can be a bit more versatile options. Two number eights as well, I should say, in there. So I feel like it's a squad that has its identity, that makes a huge amount of sense in terms of what they are looking for. And yeah, if I was a Springbok fan, I'd be pretty excited, quite frankly. I mean, you'd be excited by the series anyway, because the series on its own is enough to get us all excited. But certainly that team, I think they're in a great place at the moment, which isn't always the case. Certainly not off the back of winning a World Cup. You sometimes see teams in transition, retirements and things, and I know there are players that aren't there anymore, partly because of injury and various other things, but it's still very, very strong. What are the question marks then, I suppose? What are the question marks for this team heading into that first test against Ireland as we sit here, right now? Because I think for the most part, you know what they're going to do. This is going to be very, very close to the team that won the World Cup final. I guess one thing is the halfbacks, and actually the halfbacks is an area that is worth highlighting because for me that is the most obvious area that there is a massive strength for this Springbok team compared with Ireland, in particular with Jamison Gibson-Park, the Irish nine, being missing through injury. That is a huge loss for Ireland. It's actually pretty gutting, to be honest, because I think even most Springbok fans would rather face Ireland at their best. Missing Gibson-Park is almost like France missing Dupont. Like, he is so important for what they try and do. But then you couple it up with the fact that I think the fly half position for Ireland at the moment is also not their strongest position. We've seen that with Leinster and the Champions Cup final and everything there. So I think halfbacks for Springboks are key. They've got so much quality there. The big question is who starts at fly half? Is it still Pollard? Is Pollard just still the guy? He came back in the World Cup, did what he did against England in the semi-final and then the final against New Zealand, and he will be the player. Where does Marnie Libbok fit in? You know, fly half always seems to be a bit more of a talking point. That is probably one of the main areas that you would say is what direction do they go in? I think it's probably Pollard, in particular for this series. I do think we will start to see the likes of Sasha Feinberg, Umgonzulu come into this team more over this season and also the years to come. He's a really exciting prospect, of which there are others in this team as well. And on that note, looking at those less experienced players, whether it's Feinberg Umgonzulu, who I just mentioned, whether it's Ben Jason Dixon, whether it's Edwill van der Merwe, whether it's Buthelezi, who of the inexperienced players do you think are most likely to break in? Probably not over this series. Could well be wrong. We know that Erasmus likes a few surprises, but I can't imagine too many of them are going to get that much of a look in for the Ireland series, but how many of them could break into the team throughout this year and looking forward? I think the most likely at the moment, based upon what we saw against Wales, is Edwill van der Merwe. He looked pretty ready to step up into the test arena and feature, and I don't think you would have too many worries right now if he was starting on the wing for the Ireland Test series, whereas some of those other players, I'd imagine, maybe that game against Portugal that's coming up, maybe some of the Test matches in the Rugby Championship against Argentina or whatever it might be, is where we see more of them get a chance and get an opportunity. But we'll wait and see. I didn't want to go through it position by position because the squad's been out for 24 hours plus now, so many of you would have seen it already. I wanted to go through some of the big talking points that stood out to me, and those are them pretty much. So what do you make of the captaincy? Siya Kolisi makes a lot of sense for him to carry on. The identity of this team and what do you think they do at halfback? Faf and Pollard, I think, is probably going to be what we see, but you just never know. But I think halfbacks generally is a position of strength, particularly when you compare it with Ireland, who, as good a squad as they are, as well-oiled and well-drilled a machine they are, I think halfbacks amongst Irish fans, I would guess, might be their biggest concern heading into this series. But it proves to be a brilliant one. I think we will get two excellent, incredibly high-standard test matches, and I'll do my best to cover it here on the channel. So thanks for watching. Comment down below, let me know, give me your thoughts on this Springbok team and Siya Kolisi continuing as the captain, and make sure you like the video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.